Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast 239. How you folks doing? Trust you've had a great week, all doing well. Everybody is safe and sound. Most importantly, I trust you've been out taking pictures, some great photographs. Hey, I want to thank you for stopping by and spending a little time with me. You guys had some great questions this week, and I appreciate you sending those along. I'm going to try to answer a couple of them all in this podcast. So thanks so much for being part of the Moose Podcast tribe and participating by sending the information. Of course, you're continually telling other folks about it. So I'm very grateful. Thank you very much. Also want to thank my good friends at Bedford's Camera, bedfords.com, home of the Moose discount. If you hadn't noticed, they have announced and put up the dates for PhotoCon this October. It's a great event, great gathering there that, was put off the last couple of years because, well, you know why. So I'm glad to see it's up, it's going to be better than ever. So you can either check them out at one of their 7 stores, you can check them out online at bedfords.com, or you can see them in October at PhotoCon. Whatever the case may be, remember to use that Moose discount, MOOSE, save yourself some real money. So thank you, Bedford's Camera, for sponsoring the Moose Podcast. Let's get to this week's topic, courtesy of Andy. He says, what's your source? What's your source for all the podcasts, all the articles, all the blog posts? What's your source? He kind of made it sound like I have an endless pool of ideas or topics to sit there and, he didn't say babble about, but that's basically what he was saying. And he's right. I do. And I've talked about this before, but there are some very definite sources for my thoughts. The first one, which to me is a treasure and one I'm very grateful for, and that's you. You folks, just like this podcast coming from Andy and his question. I do enjoy conversing with you folks. I know some of you might not believe that with my, kind of sometimes brief answers. Some questions, my apologies, that come my direction, there's just no answer for, what's the best f-stop? That still keeps coming in, and I don't have that answer for everybody. People ask me what's the best lens for them and their photography. Again, that's another question where unless I know you and I know your abilities and I know the story you're trying to tell, how can I really answer that question honestly? There are so many different, possibilities. So some of the questions, though, when you ask them like that, there's always a little something in that then triggers my thought process. And then I get a topic, be it for a blog post, be it for podcast, and sometimes an article. Though in the last 12 months, I have not been as prolific writing articles as I had been prior. You might think that that's because of the pandemic. Well, actually, it's because I moved to the ranch and I've been preoccupied, not with unboxing boxes, as a lot of people think, but actually with the critters here. And that kind of brings me up to my second important source for things, and that is just observations, be it of critters, of photographers, of the world and people. Those observations are probably the number 2 source for my inspiration for a lot of things, especially when it comes to articles I write out there and blog posts and the podcasts. And those observations they don't come. I'm not sitting with a pair of binoculars, and staring at things and snooping. The observations usually are more personal, more intimate, more one-on-one as I experience things. Photographers, I think, the really good photographers are ones who really kind of take in everything around them and kind of synthesize that stimulation, that the pluses, the minuses, and in that process, ideas tend to want to rejuvenate. Now, in this last year, it's been a little more challenging for a lot because haven't been out. And, well, I kind of kept getting out. And I was real fortunate, just doing the basics. Sharon never got, no one in the family ever got COVID. So we kind of stayed, I'm going to say, semi-active. I mean, I even went and shot a wedding last June. It was outdoors, and no one, it wasn't, no one got COVID from it. So I guess we were all a bunch of cautious, paranoid old folks. I don't know. Anyway, kept going out and experiencing, and that often brings out the thought process. Now, for myself, that thought process, I have to experience it, and then I have to have, you could say, time to ponder it. It has to ferment. It has to kind of knock around in the old gray pan. It has to kind of take root in some sense or form. And then I have to kind of mull it over and decide, is it something that would help me in my own photography? And that's a very important part of this process. So that airline flight coming back or going to a location, the drives going in to and from different projects, that time is really important for all that stuff to just kind of come in, ferment, be part of the thought process that I then put into words to you. Now, a big part of those experiences that I have that I like to share come from also and is stimulated by the reading I do. I guess it probably started with my father, who I watched every morning read the paper from beginning to end. And then at night after dinner, he sat in the living room with his book and he read. And he passed on, I'm pretty sure, that, at least to me, as far as I'm concerned, my love of reading. So in the morning, I read the paper. It's not quite the same as he did it. I don't get a paper delivered. It's there on the iPhone, and I read it. And I have a couple great friends that every so often articles provoke something, and we talk about it, which makes that reading a little bit funner, and at times allows me to ferment more some of the thoughts in my mind that I might put into a podcast or something. And then the other thing that I read a lot are books. And back in the day, I read excessively accounts of critters. A lot of those accounts were in the form of biological reports that, at the time, I would, for example, when I started off to go work on any project, like the Lee Spells Vario, I would collect all the reports I could find. Sharon was a big help. We had a number of friends who were biologists, either on the government or the university side, and they would help get those papers to me. And that's how they came in a paper form. And then I go to research libraries, and that information has served me well throughout the decades. The old "you read it, it sticks" kind of story. And that helps me a lot in my idea, and that's always been a major source, is my reading material. especially now a lot of the books that I read. Right now I'm finishing up one on Myra Slovik, a name that you probably wouldn't recognize, but in the 60s through the 90s, an amazing individual who escaped from behind the Iron Curtain in a DC-3 and came to the States. It's a hydroplane and then an aerobatic and a racer at Reno Air Races. I photographed his plane not too long ago, and the owner recommended the book. It's a great read. All those things stimulate the juices. But probably getting to the number one source for all my material, everything that I do, and with the most important caveat, the money that we generate here at WRP, and that's from behind the camera. It's those times behind the camera that 80% of my material that I talk about comes from. Now, I'm talking both literally behind the camera. So, for example, I'm at the ranch. I'm spending a lot of time the last, about a month, shooting with a 500 PF lens, the birds at the feeders. And it gets all sorts of things going. And the first thing it got started on in this particular time was I needed a bigger feeder. And you might say, oh, well, okay, go buy another big feeder. Well, big feeders, I'm talking about big feeders. So now we have a feeder outside our morning room. We call it the mega feeder. I actually built this thing. It holds 60 pounds of seed. Yeah, 60. That's a lot of seed. Our evening grosbeaks are starting to come back, and there will be about a 40-day period where we'll have 300 to 500 of them here. And we wanted to be able to feed them. And then also we wanted a feeder that would feed the birds while we're gone for a week. So there's a whole set of processes that began behind the camera without even clicking that source for a lot of information. A lot of thoughts come to my mind, and what I do anymore when I have a thought, I don't ever trust it to memory. No, don't do that. I know better. What I do is I send myself an email. I pull out my iPhone. I literally just send myself an email, and the subject line is the idea. Then there's things I want to add to it. I put it in the body of the email, and I just email to me my notes anymore. It's been a very effective way for a number of years just to, not forget things. And it's the process of taking the photograph, standing behind the camera and shooting that generates lion's share of my ideas. That's my source. The other one is actually looking at the photographs afterwards, going through the process of editing and finishing, that then other things click, and all of that stimulates my little pea brain into these ideas that I then share with you. Now, part of my thought process is that if I am seeing wildlife do their thing, I'm watching the sun come up over a landscape, I am working with this aircraft or that aircraft, there is an audience for each one of those that sometimes overlaps, sometimes does not. And there's definite audiences that don't care at all about any of that stuff. So that also is part of the thought process. When I look at the source and I want to tell a story, you got to know your audience. That's really important. You've got to think about that audience and target that message, that story to that audience. So in this case, Andy, in asking the source for all my podcasts, these are the three main sources, and then you are the audience that I'm targeting with and thinking about in the process of creating that podcast. So it's a complicated, yet it's not complicated. It's just the simple. I really would like to help folks move their photography forward for the very simple reason that I know I'm not going to see everything. I'm not going to be able to photograph everything and not able to tell all the stories. We all need to do that. We have an incredible wild heritage that's been left to us that I want to see left to others. And that's the reason for all of this. So the main source of inspiration is the fact that I feel so fortunate that I've been able to see all of this. I want the next generation to see it as well. You folks are great. I appreciate you stopping by. Have a grand week. And remember to make every click your story.